Bespoken Spirits is a modern spirits company blending technology and tradition to take craft spirits to entirely new heights. Their unique craft maturation process unlocks amazing flavor combinations while reducing the environmental impact of each sip. The process is all natural and uses only the highest quality ingredients carefully sourced from the best mills, coopers, and distilleries. The result is an unparalleled flavor experience and something you can feel good about drinking. But don't take our word for it, try it yourself. Bespoken Spirits award-winning products can be purchased through retailers or online. Learn more at www.bespokenspirits.com.
Proudly made in the USA and inspired by the American lifestyle, Country Smooth Bourbon was developed by the first female founder and CEO of an American bourbon whiskey company as a refined experience to be savored on its own or enjoyed in cocktails. We are dedicated to celebrating the spirit of America and the crafting of premium bourbon whiskey. To learn more, visit countrysmooth.com, where you can order online or find a retailer near you. Cheers. Country Smooth. Female founded, country grounded.
With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
There's a new award-winning 4-grain straight bourbon whiskey that's been taking the market by storm, Penelope Bourbon. Penelope's balanced yet flavorful taste profile comes from a unique blend of 3 bourbon mash bills. Currently available in 3 expressions, 4-grain, barrel strength, and toasted, Penelope is remarkably smooth and flavorful. So whether you're sipping neat or using it in your favorite cocktail, Penelope is perfect for you. Penelope Bourbon is available throughout Kentucky, as well as select markets and online at penelopebourbon.com.
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me tonight, live in the Bourbon Life Studios, it's the Bourbon Life Crew. I've got Matt and Philip with me. Guys, how you doing?
Mark, doing great, man. Always excited and happy to be back in the Bourbon Life Studios, especially when we get to do this face-to-face.
Yeah, man. It's great. Philip, man, this is your first, you're
always
always
here.
like the call-in guy, man. So you're here tonight, man.
Finally
live
here,
in
get to
person.
see this fancy table.
Yeah, that's right. Long-time listener, first-time caller over
There
here.
you go,
We've got
man.
him in the studio.
In the studio. And we didn't get Chad, man. And I'm so sorry about that. Chad, unfortunately, his job, the duties and demands of his job just pulled him away. He was not able to join us tonight. So he's with us in spirit, though.
He is the full daily bourbon. He is daily and into nightly, my nightly bourbon right now. He is punching the clock.
No doubt, dude. No doubt about that, Matt. Yeah. So, but Philip, happy to have you here with us live.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, in the studios, man. So, Matt, I have no agenda tonight. I have no notes. Usually I do a bunch of stuff, and we just kind of talked about some things that we wanted to do maybe for this show, and Matt had a great idea, just kind of a bourbon basics. So I think we can talk about that a little bit, but then also we got some exciting pours. We're just going to blind each other tonight, right?
That's right. We figured that what better way to finish off season 2, episode 100, right?
This is 99. I know. Sorry, Matt. But we're right on the verge. Yeah.
99.
Yeah.
We figured what better way than for all of our guests to really see just how full of baloney we are. So we decided that we were going to each bring a bottle.
Yes.
And blind everyone else with it.
Yeah.
So
this is going to be fun, man.
The stipulations were, though, you have to at least have an idea of the age in the mash bill. So you can't bring, Uncle Jarvis's boot aged whatever whiskey from who knows where. So at least have a reputable idea of what we've got going on here.
Yep.
That's what we decided to do on this show. And we also thought we would just let the conversation roll with whatever.
Yeah, man. Some bourbon basics. I've got some topics too that we can talk about, but I think some bourbon basics would be good because we've had people reach out and ask us about sharing some things. We got listeners all over the world. So it's just going to be kind of fun to share some basic, principles. And if you're an experienced bourbon drinker, this information, stuff we share tonight may be like, oh yeah, I already know that. But it's just fun for people that are getting into it because bourbon is growing at such a rapid pace. The bourbon drinkers out there, it's crazy how the market continues to expand. People talk about being on a bubble. And, Matt, we had Paul Packold on the show, and, he was like, this is not a bourbon bubble. He's like, it's going to continue to grow and expand, and it's not going to stop for a long time.
Yeah, this is the new way of the future.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool, and I think that's where we are, man. So it's always good to new listeners, people that are coming in for the first time. I think this is going to be a good opportunity for them to hear some things maybe they're not familiar with, and things that they might not know. So we can share our wealth of bourbon knowledge, right, Philip?
Oh yeah, and I think going back to the basics is always a good refresher, even for someone who's an experienced bourbon drinker. I mean, you got new products coming out now that are like this a finished series, or
right.
It's something totally different. Every day is changing, so it's always good to refresh yourself.
Yep, that's good. What's your shirt say over there, by the way? Look at that. Frankfurt, Bardstown, Louisville, Lexington, #bourbon hunting KY.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. A little plug in there for your Instagram and for your products, man. That's cool. That's nice. All right, so you guys are nosing this, Matt. I'm going to defer to you on this. This is Philip's private special pour, man.
Yes.
So,
and full disclosure, I have not tasted it either. This is all I know what it is, but I've not.
Okay.
I haven't tasted it or anything. I just opened it right away.
All right, cool.
All right.
So you just popped it open here in the Bourbon Life Studios, out of sight from Matt and myself. So we have no idea what he poured up for us, man. So Matt, what do you pick up on it?
It's got a nice juicy nose. I'm picking up a lot of red wine fruit, like some currant, like that dark grape. But there's also some nuttiness, like a peanut or some sort of a walnut, maybe.
Matt, do you think it's a finished bourbon?
I jotted down on my notes here that I put finished ?
Yeah.
So
okay,
maybe we'll see. We'll have to come back to that one. It's got a nice color to it, though. Real
nice amber
color.
Right.
But what do you think, Mark?
I agree with you, man. It's got that nice kind of fruity, like you said, red fruity smell. But as I nose it, it's almost like I get a finished bourbon nose to it. So I could be off on that, but I don't know. I mean, Philip, this is yours. Do you want to comment? Because you never opened this one before.
Yeah, I've never opened it.
Yeah,
so I actually get a lot of apple, which Matt kind of said the red fruit's like a wine fruit, but I get apple. I do get some caramel, and then I get a little bit of corn, and that could be because I do know the age of it. So I'm kind of thinking, and I'm getting more of the grain.
A bit youthful, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
But I'm pleasantly surprised with the nose.
See, now you said red apple and you said fruit, Matt. So now in my mind, I mean, that's all I'm smelling it. It's like red apple.
Yeah, like a red Gala or something.
Yeah, all over the place. That's what I'm picking up is a red apple on that. Very, very interesting. So let's talk about some bourbon basics. Matt, what do you think, man?
Yeah, should we get at it here? So
yeah.
I have had a couple people come to me and say that they've started listening to the podcast. I'm always super appreciative of that.
Hey, we appreciate you, Mom, Dad, Matt's mom and dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Philip's wife.
My wife and her coworkers.
Yeah, we appreciate the 6 of you out there that are listening and sending us questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you again for your undying support on this one.
Yes.
You make up probably a fourth of our fan base here. But we figured, I did actually have some other people ask and say, oh, that's cool that you have a podcast. I've heard a little bit about bourbon, but I'm by no means an expert, and they always look at me like I actually know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I say,
right.
Well, it's
like
really,
you're the expert. It's like,
yeah, no, I really just say it confidently enough that I sound legitimate doing it, which is certainly not. But we figured, let's get back to the basics and let's run over what we are talking about when we say we are drinking bourbon.
yeah.
All right. So bourbon. First off, this must be produced in the U.S., correct?
That's right. Yes.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. As much as I would love to say, Matt, as a native Kentuckian, I love to lie to people and say it has to be distilled in Kentucky. That is a lie.
That is all hogwash. So
The lie detector said, as Mari would say, the lie detector said that is a lie.
That's right.
It may be the best bourbon comes from Kentucky, but
Wow. That could be another episode, right?
Yeah. I don't know about best. Maybe the most consistent.
There you go. The majority. Let's say
If season 2 of the Bourbon Life podcast has taught us anything.
it's taught us a lot about, there's some good bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. So yes, it has to be distilled in the United States. You're right. Yes.
Yeah. All right. And now the next big one that we always go to, minimum 51% corn.
Right.
So don't you be trying to sneak that 50% corn in here and calling it bourbon.
Can't do it.
No, wouldn't be prudent.
Yeah. And that's what we call, barely legal. Like, when you get guys that are doing I'm trying to think, are there mash bills that are 51%? I know rye, you get 51% rye. So it's like a barely legal rye because they just hit that threshold. But are there bourbons out there that you know of that are 51%?
I don't know of any right off the top of my head. I mean, I would have to think some of the ones that are 4 grain would have to be closer to that.
But most of them are
still,
usually at least in the 60s and usually in the mid 70s.
I'm trying to think like some of the super high rye, like
because some of those ryes are 30-some%, right?
yeah,
So-
like some old Dominic. Don't they have like a 40% rye? And then what's the
the malted barley has to be at least probably 5%, 10% maybe.
just to get help with aid to distillation. But even like MGP's high rye is is that 36%?
Yeah.
Is that
So
right?
that's true. So you got to be at least in the 60s, maybe the high 50s, low 60s, maybe for some of those. But yeah, so minimum 51%. Yeah, but that's a good question. I haven't thought about that, Matt. What are some of the lower rye?
So I guess if anyone listening, if you know of one, message us so we'll know.
Let us know because we don't keep track of the mash bills. Unfortunately, we keep track of what we drink on the show, but we don't keep track of what the mash bills are. We should probably do that. But
And there you brought up a good buzzword, mash bill.
there you go.
Mark, what's a mash bill?
A mash bill is the percentages of the grains that are used to produce a spirit. So for bourbon, for example, you're going to have at least 51% corn, as Matt said. You're going to have a flavoring grain, which will be generally either rye or wheat. And then you're going to have malted barley, which aids in the fermentation process. And that's usually going to be in the percentage of 5 to 10% for most bourbons and ryes, I think. So you're going to have a mash bill of corn, rye, and malted barley, or corn, wheat, and malted barley. So that'll be your mash bill. Now, there are some 4-grain bourbons as well, obviously, which have all 4 of those grains. And then some people do some experimentation and do different things, like Alan Bishop at Spirits of French Lick. And Alan does all sorts of wild buckwheat and oats and who knows what else.
Yeah,
Alan,
even I'm looking at your shelf over there. The Eagle or the E.H. Taylor, the Amaranth grain.
the Amaranth. Yeah, that's right. Amaranth it has the Amaranth grain in there, which is the grain of the gods.
So they say.
From Egypt, right? Yeah. So that was the. Well, I got that at retail, and anyway, we won't even talk about that bottle.
So there we have a mash bill. When we talk about a mash bill, you're basically talking about the recipe.
Sure, right. Good point, Matt.
The recipe.
Matt coming from the restaurant industry and the baking industry. Good point. This is the recipe, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, then. So we've got that it has to be produced in the U.S. Our mash bill has to have at least 51% corn. Now we get down to the distillation process. We cannot come off that proof, or off that still, at more than 160 proof. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Yep, can't distill it off. Vodka and the other clear liquors, a lot of times they come off at like 190 or higher proof, like that. But bourbon cannot be distilled at higher than 160 proof.
Yep. And speaking of proof, and it also cannot be below 80 proof once it goes in the bottle.
Shh, we haven't gotten to that point, man.
He did his homework though.
Man, you're jumping ahead, man. Come on. That's all right. No, you're right.
So then we'll hit that one real quick. So we've hit this window here that we've got to be coming off the still less than 160, and we can't be going into the bottle
Right.
at
Less than 80.
Yeah,
Right.
less than 80. And so when we say proof, that's just the percentage of alcohol. So take the proof number divided by 2, and that gets your alcohol by volume. Correct?
Right. Yep. So when it's 80 proof, it means it's 40% alcohol by volume, ABV. So you're looking at a bottle of Basil Hayden's, which is 80 proof, which means that 40% of the liquid in that bottle is actually ethanol. I mean, it's alcohol. That's what you're drinking. So, yeah.
And last, but certainly not least, is it must be aged in new charred oak at no more than 125 proof.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right?
So it has to be, and it doesn't have to be a barrel. I mean, legally, the regulations do not say barrel. It says a new charred oak container.
Yeah.
So you can technically put
it in your new charred oak bucket.
You could put your distillate in a bucket as long as it passes through. You could have a hole on top of your barrel or whatever, and have a spigot at the bottom. And as long as that distillate passes through that container, and it is new charred white oak.
Any oak, it don't have to be white oak.
Yeah,
okay.
That's very good. Yeah.
Okay, there you
I was
go.
going to say because they're
Because you have French oak, Mongolian, which we've had that before. So
Yep.
right,
Kind of a letdown, by the way.
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, another episode, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so good point, Philip, that it just oak, right? A new charred oak container, but it doesn't have to stay in there any specific period of time. Now I'm going to tell you, I've had some bourbons that have been aged for 3 months, 4 months in a new charred oak container, and it really lacks in complexity and flavor, and it's not good. What about you guys?
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think this could be further on. I think you have to at least hit that 2-year mark to really get. I think to really start getting the flavors, and then of course you get to 4 years. Then I think it's really even better.
Yeah.
But 6 months or 3 weeks or whatever it is, it's usually not good.
Yeah, and Matt said it has to go in at 125, so you can't put it in the barrel higher than 125 proof. So if it comes off at 160.
Yep. So if we're coming off the still at 160, there does have to be some water added in there so that we can get it down to 125. And Philip brought up a good point when he was saying 2 years. So something magical happens at 2 years. There's a minimum aging of 2 years for it to be called straight bourbon.
Correct.
So if on your label you want to put straight bourbon or you see straight bourbon, that will tell you that product is at least 2 years old, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And if it says Kentucky on it, it has to be at least aged in Kentucky for a year. So if it says Kentucky bourbon, it has to be distilled and aged in Kentucky for a year. If it says Kentucky straight bourbon, then it has been aged or distilled and aged in Kentucky for at least 2 years. So,
And if you are scouring that label and you cannot find anywhere that it says straight bourbon on there, but it does tell you it's bourbon, that is saying to you that this is at least 4 years of age, because anything under 4 years of age must contain an age statement.
yeah. Yep. Good point, Matt.
So there, with doing just a little bit of detective work, you can sort of figure out what you're getting into.
Right. Yep. That's a good point. And it'll have to say where it was distilled, where it was bottled. And if it doesn't say, and if it doesn't have an age statement, if it doesn't say Kentucky straight bourbon, if it's under 4 years, it has to say how old it is. But if you see a label that does not have any type of age statement on it, then you know that it's at least over 4 years.
Yeah. And I would say for people that are just getting into it, age does not equal price either. So if you see a bottle that's $20 versus a bottle that's $100, that doesn't mean that the $100 bottle is older than the $20 bottle. Just check the labels, see what you taste, what you want, what you're into, but money doesn't equal age.
It just means that somebody has marketed better than somebody else possibly, and that you're going to spend a lot more for a bottle that's the same age or even younger than what the other stuff is. So, all right, what about the palate on this one, Matt? What are you picking up on this one?
It's really easy drinking.
Yeah, it is.
It's like dangerously easy drinking. We were talking about that red apple. I get a lot of red apple, a lot of the crispness of a red apple on the palate with this one. There's some caramel as well. Like like a light touch of caramel with it. There's some sort of mint too. I'm picking up something like a little herbal, a little mint, which is leading me to think this could be a rye, a corn and rye mash bill.
Gotcha.
Maybe
a high rye, or
I'm gonna guess maybe mid to high.
Okay.
Right. I don't think it's a super. I don't think we're looking like 35s or up in there, but I could see this being like maybe 15 to 25% rye.
Yeah, it's so sweet though.
It is. It's
Goodness gracious.
It is sweet.
So now for me on the nose, I'm starting to really get Mark's signature, the bubble gum,
Bubblegum.
big time. And then now that's
gotcha.
all I can taste. I just
The
taste like
bubblegum?
Bazooka Joe. Yeah.
All right, so there you go. So that's usually I usually get that in higher proof, which we know this is not higher proof, but the higher rye content. So it could be a higher rye mash bill, and you're picking out mint, which makes me think that maybe it is a little bit higher rye, and especially if he's picking out that bubble gum, that maybe that's what we're looking at. So, yeah, I can't even guess what it is, man. So
It's got a nice. It's got a spicy finish. A little
does.
bit of like
It
tip
has
of the tongue. It's not super long. It's not
Right.
like way back in the palate or on the tongue, but
yeah,
it's like a little bit of spice, like cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, baking spice.
like that mulled whiskey you brought over, man. That
Yeah,
was
kind of like a warm spice on the front here.
that was
It's like a
that
little hot wing or something. Like a spicy chicken wing.
It's a hot wing in a glass, man. All right, guys. So I don't have an idea. What are we supposed to guess and say? I mean, I'm guessing this is probably it's probably a young. I'm guessing maybe 4 years old, at the 3 to 4. But I'm guessing it's probably a higher rye mash bill. I'm gonna say it's a bourbon. I'm gonna say it's not a rye, but I'm gonna guess it's a bourbon with maybe a higher rye mash bill. But I have no idea what it actually is. Matt, what do you think?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna make myself sound foolish here and really
Nope.
try to pin some stuff out on this one.
All right.
I am gonna say 4 to 6 years. Low proof, 86 to 94.
Yeah, I'm thinking lower than that actually on my proof.
I'm gonna guess it's a mid rye mash bill bourbon,
Okay.
and something about it makes me think this came out of Heaven Hill.
Because you got the nuts on it.
So it's just
nuttiness.
in first sip, first smell,
Okay.
like something Heaven Hill, like Evan Williams. I don't know, something about it.
Okay. All right. Philip,
You
you want to
ready?
tell us? Can
You
we
all ready?
reveal now?
Yeah,
What do
see
you
how
got?
far off we are.
You already have your mind blown. So this actually isn't a bourbon. This is a straight American whiskey.
Oh, get out of here.
Oh my gosh. It's Hooters American Straight Whiskey. You've got to be kidding me, man.
So it's
That's hilarious.
it's
dude.
aged at least 2 years. Distilled in Indiana. So I'm assuming MGP.
MGP, right?
And it was produced and bottled by Florida Caribbean Distillers in Florida.
Wow.
So I've got the mash bill too.
Wow.
Okay. I'm really
So
surprised.
the mash bill is a blend of 20% aged 21% rye bourbon and 80% aged light whiskey.
Really
Oh, okay.
interesting, man.
Yeah.
Never. So it's not even technically a bourbon.
No,
You got
so
it.
it's actually an American straight whiskey
Right.
because it's not, the whole mash bill is not 21% corn
Yeah. So that's what we explain that, Philip.
or 51% corn.
Explain that to our listeners so they know why it's not a.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, the aged light whiskey, where we were talking about the 51% corn to be bourbon. This mash bill would not have had 51% corn, and it's a straight American whiskey because it's aged at least 2 years.
There you go, man.
Did it say the proof on it?
It is 80 proof.
80.
I was gonna say I knew it was
Okay.
a low proof. It was an easy drinker, man. It's so sweet. Like corn comes through.
As soon as I walked into the liquor store, it was just like, what? It's like that's the
Oh,
one.
that's
the
awesome.
one.
Oh my gosh, dude!
And I think it was $23.
$23.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? I mean, I'm sure that would generate a lot of conversation if you had that on your bar. People would be like, "What?" But
It's not bad. It tastes a lot better than I thought it was going to.
For $23, I got to say I recommend it.
Yeah.
You tried to give it away too with the hot wing.
Yeah,
You tried.
I
I would have never even. I would have never even thought about it. Here I was trying to make this something all.
And it was $23 for a liter bottle. This isn't a 750. So.
And you got that just at a liquor store?
Yeah, in Frankfurt at Red Dot Liquors. They had three bottles. So everybody out there, if you're in Frankfurt, there's 2 bottles left.
Everybody run to the liquor store
That's
now.
right. It's going to be allocated after this show. So.
Oh my gosh, dude. So if I go to the restaurant, maybe they'll have this on the bar.
I looked on their website. They've got whiskey. They've got gin. They've got vodka.
No kidding. I had no idea.
Yeah.
No clue about that, Philip. So that's a surprise. You got us both pretty good on that one, I think.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so we're gonna close out round 1 here, guys. I gotta say, I enjoyed that. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was very sweet. It was easy to drink. I knew it was low proofer, and that was something that was really simple to. I mean, just easy to sip on, man. So, yeah, very good. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, that was great. That was so perfect, Phil. Thank you for making us try this, because I would have never ever in a million years thought to try that. And like you said, Mark, super easy drink.
Wow.
This is just sit
if
around.
Chad was here, it would be on the shelf at Total Wine in a week.
Absolutely. He'd
There
be
you
trying
go.
to do the first barrel pick.
Yeah.
There you go, man.
So I guess I would say don't underestimate the bottle just by what's on the label. Taste it, see if you like it, because you never know.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Honestly, that's a great point, Philip. So I would agree with that. All right, guys, let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with the Bourbon Life Crew in just a minute.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky. Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they call Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round session, period, act, scene 2, whatever you want to call it, the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark. With me tonight, live in the Bourbon Life Studios, we got the Bourbon Life Crew. We got Matt here. Matt, how you doing?
Oh, Mark, I'm doing great. After the first round that we had, I'm doing awesome.
Yeah, man. Philip, how are you?
I'm feeling hooterific.
That's
Hooterific. I'm hooterific.
That's right. And we got to give Philip the plug, Bourbon Hunting KY.
Yeah, man.
Here in the studio. So we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Bespoken Spirits.
Yes.
And I'm just going to give a quick plug for someone that's been helping me out, Skechers Performance Footwear. Thank you all so much for keeping my feet covered throughout this journey so far. But anyway, we are moving along. We are here on round 2, and this is one that I brought. So I'm going to add tasting notes, but nothing else because I know.
Okay. All right.
I know.
You're not going to nose it? Nothing?
No, I'll tell you what it is I smell, what it is I taste, but I know what this is already.
All right.
And unlike Philip, I actually have opened it before. So,
and it's not from Hooters. You're going to tell us it's not from Hooters.
And it is not the Arby's vodka either.
Oh my gosh. Philip, what do you get on the nose, man?
Immediately, I get just a cherry bomb.
Cherries, man. That's
Yes,
what.
big time.
So
cherry
I'm
bomb.
thinking, I've obviously got things in my mind
Yeah.
as soon as I smell
As
that.
soon as I nose it, I immediately think Buffalo Trace Mashbill 1, but I can't.
Yeah.
I think it's Stag Junior or younger. I don't think it would be older than 10 to 12 years.
But that color, the color
It's
on this
got a
glass,
beautiful color.
Yeah, it does, man. So that lends me to believe it's either older or higher proof.
Yeah.
And it kind of smells higher proof.
Yeah.
Right. But man, when I smell it, it makes me think of, I said Elijah Craig barrel proof during the break, but it's just that higher proof smell. But the more I smell it, it's like either like a E.H. Taylor, maybe barrel proof.
Possibly. Yeah.
It's
definitely
or a Stag barrel proof, but the cherries come
You definitely
through.
get the alcohol, but it's not like a strong, unpleasant alcohol.
It's not, man.
You
It's
can
not.
tell it's,
Yeah.
I would say, higher proof. It's definitely over, I would say it has to be over 110 for sure.
It's higher than the 80 proof Hooters.
Yes.
Hooters whiskey we just had, Matt. All right, this is what you brought, man. So you tell us what do you pick up? What do you get on the nose? You've opened this, so
I have opened this. It's got some nice oak coming through, and then I'm picking up like some lemon balm. There's like a sweetness to it.
okay.
Lemon balm, it's herbal. Like
Are you trying to throw us off the scent here, Matt? Because I don't get lemon, but I'm just asking.
I'm picking up like vinyl records and
It reminds me of a nice leather sofa,
old piano
that's been warmed by the fireplace.
strings.
I can maybe see some of the citrus, but
The cherries just come through,
Yeah,
man.
it's strong
I agree with that. So, yeah. Anything else you get on that, Matt?
I'll let you two dissect this.
No,
one,
no,
because
man, I don't
anything else that I add is gonna.
Give it away.
No, I'm not gonna say give it away because we all smell and we all taste what we taste.
Yeah.
But I can tell you this much: it is not bottled in bond.
It's not bottled in bond.
But
Matt,
what is bottled in bond?
It's a great question, Matt. Why don't you tell our listeners what a whiskey bottled in bond, what that means?
So there is this whole branch of whiskey.
It's a whole
and
branch.
bourbon,
Like a tree. Like bourbon is a tree, and this is a branch.
That
a big,
very
large
true.
branch.
And I shouldn't say just bourbon because rye can be bottled in bond.
Right.
Apple brandy can be bottled
That's
in
right.
bond.
Yes, that's true.
So bottled in bond is this classification of whiskey which originated in 1897, and it was a way for the U.S. government to put stricter guidelines on what people were calling bourbon, because beforehand there was a lot of chicanery, shall we call it, that went on.
That's a good word, Matt.
In
Did you look that up in the dictionary, man? Because that's a great freaking word.
very classy.
Chicanery.
well, kind of accurate, right?
There was. I mean, it's a great description of what was going on.
A lot was not being disclosed.
Sure.
Old whiskeys were being blended with younger whiskeys, and it was being called bourbon. And
People
it was
were
being-
like spitting tobacco juice.
yeah,
And,
anything. There
gross
was
turpentine or whatever.
yes,
I mean, yeah.
less than disclosure. So the Bottled in Bond Act set out to try to clear up some of that. So in order for a whiskey to be bottled in bond, first and foremost, it must be produced from one distillation season by one distiller at one distillery. Now, I know that sounds a little confusing, but it's easily dissectable here. So one distillation season is there are two in a year, so January to June or July to December.
Okay.
So you've got it from the first distillation season, the first 6 months, or the second distillation season, second 6 months, by one distiller at one distillery. So you can't go out and source someone else's barrels, blend them with your own,
Right.
and call it bottled in bond. You also can't take your older whiskey from, if you distill one batch on the 30th of June and the next on the 31st of July, and you blend those together, that cannot be bottled in bond.
It can't be. You're right, Matt.
So you can't
point.
take your old stuff and blend it with your super young stuff
Right.
and call it bottled in bond. It must also be aged in a federally bonded warehouse for at least 4 years under government supervision. So this is where, to me, this is one of the big things that I see coming out in the Bottled in Bond Act is when I see bottled in bond, I immediately think two things. And the first is it's at least 4 years old.
Right.
So if I see that on the label, I'm knowing that this bourbon, rye, whiskey, whatever it is, has been at least sitting in oak for 4 years. So I think that's a good telltale sign, especially for a newer, younger bourbon drinker, if they want to make sure that they're getting a good bit for their money and stretching it a good way so that they're not paying for younger whiskey thinking it's something very old or maybe being duped by a label or something. If you see bottled in bond, you know you're going at least 4 years.
Right.
So I don't know how you two, if that means anything to you, but when I'm looking at something and I
Sure.
see bottled in bond, To me, that tells me we've at least got some age under this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm not gonna lie, bottled and bonds are usually my go-to. If I'm gonna have something at the house to drink, or just if a friend's coming over and be like, here's a quick pour, and I don't want to get into something nice, bottled and bond is my go-to all the time.
Yeah. And it's 100 proof. So that's the thing. It's 4 years old.
You
it's
jumped the gun here.
Oh, Nikes. I'm so sorry. Now, I got on Philip earlier about the...
But Mark brings up number 3, 100 proof.
Yeah, sorry.
So there is another one. If it is bottled and bond, it is 100 proof, which we talked about last round, means 50% alcohol by volume.
Right.
So those are the two big things. When I see a bottled and bond, I already know that this is at least 4 years old and it's 100 proof.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
So,
and it goes back to 1897, the Bottled and Bond Act, which is in large part pushed through by E.H. Taylor. Yep. He was very, very active in that. If you guys know anything, you know your history of bourbon. You're familiar. People have heard of E.H. Taylor, obviously, but he was related to Andrew Jackson, I think. Or somebody, he was related to somebody very prominent, a president.
I believe it was a president. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah. So he was very adamant about trying to get some, E.H. Taylor himself was very strict about the procedures, things that went on in his distillery. And he wanted to see that kind of broad spread for the whole bourbon industry. So he was very active in getting the Bottled and Bond Act passed. And that was something that really laid the groundwork for. It was actually before like the FDA. All the, you didn't have anything with regards to the, processing of meats and food and drugs and everything else. You did not have those types of acts out there yet from the federal government. So the Bottled and Bond Act was really one of the first federal regulations that was enacted that put out a nationwide system and structure for the production of a product. So that was pretty unique and pretty groundbreaking, actually, for bourbon.
And it was important too, because a lot of people were going blind. They were getting sick. They were dying because of what
bad stuff
whiskey was cut with and things like that. So anybody out there that's like a dusty hunter, just another reminder, if it's something that is really old, and make sure it's coming from a legit source, not somebody off the internet, because you don't know what's in that bottle.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, no doubt about it, man. No doubt. Matt, all right, where are we on our...
And last but not least, the label must say where it was distilled and, if different, where it was bottled.
Oh,
so just some more transparency.
Yep.
So I didn't know that it could be bottled somewhere else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you'll see that almost, it may say distilled in Indiana, but it'll say bottled in Owensboro or bottled in wherever. So, but yeah, it has to say distilled. One other thing, Matt, going back to the requirements for bourbon itself, bourbon cannot have any additives.
Oh, very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing. I know we usually talk about the requirements of bourbon, what you have to do, but the things that kind of forget to mention is the fact that it can't have any colorings or flavorings added to it. But other whiskeys can.
Yes.
Which is kind of strange. People think, really? It's like, yeah, some other whiskeys, and I think like Irish whiskeys maybe, or Canadian whiskeys. I think Canadian whiskeys can have
I believe it's Canadian whiskey.
Flavorings and colorings even added to them.
They do add flavorings, because like Crown Royal, you got peach and apple. And,
right.
Things
so,
like that.
So you can add those things to it, which kind of leads us to the next thing about not flavored whiskey, or bourbons, but finished bourbons. Yeah. How can bourbons be finished and still be considered to be a bourbon? So does anybody want to tackle that issue?
I'm going to let one of you two take this one.
And I'm not an expert by no means on it. So to my understanding with the finished bourbon, I don't think there's a whole lot of regulation and stipulation. I know for it to be the bourbon, it has to be aged in the white oak or the charred oak barrel. Then it can be aged a second time in a different type of barrel that would give it the finishing flavors, or so like a wine barrel, a rum barrel.
Yeah.
Adding different flavored staves, or I guess different toasted staves. I don't guess they actually have flavor on them.
But it first has to go through new charred oak. So we can't be putting it through an old recycled barrel and then
Right.
putting it into something finished and calling it bourbon. You could call it finished whiskey then, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I think that the kicker on that is that most of these bottles that are finished bourbons, it will say that this is Kentucky straight bourbon, and then it'll say finished in whatever other type of barrel. So it doesn't say that it is a bourbon itself, but it will say that it was a bourbon at one point, but that it was finished in like that bottle you got there. What does that Bardstown?
So this one says Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey finished in cognac barrels.
Yeah. So, and that's not a lie. I mean, obviously that's legit. So Bardstown Bourbon has a Ferron barrel they just put out. So that is their Kentucky straight bourbon, but it is finished in cognac barrels. So I think that's the way. I mean, it's kind of a way to get around it because it technically isn't bourbon because it's been finished in another barrel.
Yeah.
But originally it was Kentucky straight bourbon, but it's been finished in something else. And I think that's the way. And TTB, that does the label approvals. I mean, I think that's the kind of the arrangement that they have with these distillers is that as long as you disclose that, yes, it was bourbon, but it's finished in these specific type of barrels. I think that's how they get around that.
And I think to me, finishing is a good way if you have a product that maybe is not necessarily up to snuff for your standard bourbon line. It's good to experiment with. You can throw it in a barrel with some different finishing, in a different finishing barrel, and it could totally change the product into something that
Sure.
you really enjoy.
I agree with that.
It's a good way not to waste whiskey.
But and that's not to say that everything that's finished is a bad bourbon originally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think there are some really like Bardstown Bourbon. I think their bourbon is really good, and I think what they do, they blend things together and they put it in these barrels to finish it. And Nulu Prohibition Craft. I mean, he's Chase is buying bottles or barrels from MGP, and they're good barrels, but he's just doing unique blends and putting them in different, honey barrels or toasted oak barrels or whatever. So it's not that the barrels independently are bad or they taste bad. It's just kind of a unique way to do it. But yes, I agree. That is a way you can take younger bourbons or bourbons that may not be necessarily as palatable as an aged bourbon, and you can put them in a different barrel and change the profile and make it something you could sell.
Yeah, and I think most brands, whatever their standard line is, they want it to be consistent. So, and if anybody that's ever done a barrel pick or each barrel tastes so different that there's no way every barrel in one warehouse that you're going to be able to blend those together and it's going to taste the same all the time.
Yeah.
So that is a good way for them not to lose, 50 gallons of a product. Let's try it with this, and it might be something good.
Yep.
So here's a question for you all.
Okay, Matt.
Going back to bottled and bond.
Yeah.
What's your take on, say, like a 10 plus year bottled and bond? Like, is it a waste?
Marketing.
Because we just had with Prov, we had that 16-year-old Fitz bottled and bond.
Yeah, right. From Heaven Hill.
Which was incredible.
Sure.
It was
Yeah.
it was really,
Delicious.
really great bourbon.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yes. But really? Like
Marketing.
could you just give a 16-year?
But I guess at 16 years, they could have lost a lot in the barrel. You can add water to it, proof it down,
Yeah.
get more bottles out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you could still just proof it down and still call it a bourbon, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the brands, it's marketing. I think back in the day when the Bottled and Bond Act was passed, that it was very significant. It made a difference, because people were doing some pretty messed up stuff, with what they were putting out, the rectifiers and whoever else. What they were releasing as bourbon was not legit. So I think the Bottled and Bond Act really helped rectify that situation. But I think nowadays, a lot of the Bottled and Bond is really more paying homage to the olden days. So like that Heaven Hill, that Old Fitz, that 16-year-old we drank last week. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to call it Bottled and Bond. I just think it's their thing. I think it's just a marketing thing for them. So,
and to me, to my knowledge, I don't know of any other distillery that has quite a bit older bottled in bonds, but Heaven Hill. Because of Henry McKenna, it's 10-year.
10-year.
That's Heaven Hill.
But that's Heaven Hill.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Is it
all
Wild Turkey or something like their Decadence or
Decades
Tradition,
or something, or I don't know what they're.
I don't know about those. I haven't had those.
Yeah,
neither of us.
I don't. I'm just trying. Yeah, I'm trying to think of things that I know of that. Yeah.
Just off the top of my head, something that I see all the time, or
Heaven
see
Hill,
people post pictures all the time. It's all Heaven Hill.
Obviously, it was Heaven Hill, the 6-year-old. They discontinued that. They put out the 7-year-old.
Dickel's got what, an 8-year?
What's Dickel? No, I'm just kidding.
You would say that. You would.
Oh man, no, that's a good point though, Philip. I'm like, what are the other? Wilderness Trail.
Well, Wilderness Trail, I was just going to say.
Yeah, there you go.
To the credit of Shane and Pat,
Yes,
the owners of Wilderness Trail,
Right.
They waited to release anything until it was bottled in bond.
They did,
because they wanted full transparency. They didn't want people speculating that their product was super young or that they were rushing it to market. They wanted everyone to know that when they put out a product, there was nothing it could hide behind. It was bottled in bond, so they knew it was at least 4 years old, distilled, warehoused, aged, done everything on their property by them.
Matt, it's funny. It's like the light bulbs went off at the same time. We're both like, wait, Wilderness Trail, man. I mean, yes.
But I was also thinking, look back at the 2017 and 2018 E.H. Taylor 4 grains. Those are 11 and 12-year bottled in bonds.
But yeah, I mean, all the E.H. Taylors are except for the barrel proofs, right?
Yeah.
So everything is a bottled in bond.
Yeah, and of course, there's no age statement, but it was common.
Yeah.
If you did a little bit of snooping around, you could find that those were 11 or 12 year, I think.
Good point. All right, so let's get back to the whiskey that Matt brought for us. Philip, I'm going to jump back over to you, man. What do you think?
Man, on the taste, I'm lost here now.
Yeah.
It's really good. I think it noses a lot higher proof than it actually is.
Yeah, well, to me, it drinks like there's a lot of sugary, like a brown sugary flavor to it, but it's kind of tannic to me. So I'm thinking, no, not a stag, because I don't get that tannic finish on a stag or a Heaven Hill Elijah Craig. I don't get that. But I still think it's high proof. It's got a very nice brown sugary sweetness to it, a little tannic, a little dry on the finish. It's got a very nice finish. I'm just gonna say like a Bell Mead. I mean, that's what I'm thinking because I love Bell Mead. And I'm just gonna say it's an MGP. Bell Mead's an MGP product, and they've got those like 12-year-old releases that they've done. So I'm thinking this is an older whiskey. I'm thinking it's a bourbon. I'm thinking it's an older bourbon. It's a higher proof bourbon, which Bell Mead releases at higher proof. Especially obviously their single barrel and barrel picks. But it does have a little bit of tannic finish to it to me. So I'm thinking maybe something along those lines. I don't know. What do you think, Phil?
I don't know. Let me taste it again. It's really good.
It is.
Really good.
It is.
It's got a nice, that cherry is there on the tongue. It's really flavorful. I just really don't get the higher proof burn. I'm guessing this is like 110, 114 maybe.
Okay. Matt, before you tell us though, man, well, go ahead, Philip. I'm sorry.
And honestly, I couldn't pick a brand. Like the big brands or, the Buffalo Traces, Heaven Hills. I don't think it's any of those. I think this is more of a craft whiskey.
I think it is too.
Maybe like
or something that somebody has purchased maybe from an MGP or somebody.
Yeah, maybe a Traverse City or something.
Oh yeah,
something like that.
That's a good thought.
Because they release
a barrel proof Traverse City.
Yeah.
That could be. All right, so Matt, what are your tasting notes? Because you said you'd share those.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So my tasting notes on this one were spice right up front.
All right.
Good bit of spice, nice peppercorn, a little bit of baking spice. Then it's sweet. I pick up like
super sweet,
a drying like clover honey.
There you go.
Think of like chewing on a honeycomb. Sometimes that can leave your mouth like a little dry and like a little hot.
Yep.
Also, I get citrus zest. I get orange. I get lime, and I get mint.
Okay.
There's an herbal quality to it.
All right, Matt. So tell us what did we just drink? Were we close?
You were actually. You both between the two of you both were quite close.
Okay.
Oh, well, maybe not quite close, but
Maybe not really. You guys kind of effed it up, but that's all right.
so this is 6 years old.
Okay. All right. I thought it was a lot older.
The proof, 105.5.
I thought it was a lot higher.
A little lower than I thought, but
you were
I
good
said,
though. Yeah, Philip was on it, man.
The mash bill, 95.5 rye.
Are you serious?
I would never have
Damn it,
guessed that.
dude.
I
It's
would
an
have
MGP.
Oh
This
my God.
is from
Okay.
Proof and Wood here in Kentucky. This
Damn.
is the Senator, 6-year-old,
Okay. Man,
single barrel, 95.5 MGP rye.
you got me, man, because I was not even drinking that as a rye.
No, I would.
it did not come
never
across
guessed
at
that's a
all.
rye. Wow.
At all, man. So
Very
thanks, Mike Hines. You got me good on that one, man. So basically what we're saying is do not listen to the Bourbon Life for our tasting notes because we don't know what we're talking about, man. So I just drank a rye and just said it was
But you were both barking up the right tree with thinking MGP, high rye.
yeah.
So the
yeah.
Bell Mead was a good guess because MGP,
right,
and
right.
that's a high rye recipe. So
Right.
this was a high rye. I think, Philip, when you came in with Traverse City, because they source MGP, both their bourbon and their rye,
Yeah.
and the thinking it was craft and not a big one of the big Kentucky names or
Yeah.
anything. So I got to say you all did a lot better than I think we did with Hooters. So
And it goes to show you there's a lot of MGP out there. So
Yeah,
you
man.
never know
No
what you're
doubt.
drinking.
yeah,
That's awesome. What was the retail on that? You know, Matt?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
All right.
want to say I've seen it at maybe around 70,
Okay.
70,
All right.
70 to
Cool.
80.
All right. Well, good. All right, guys. You ready to take a break?
Yes.
All right. That sounds good. Let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with the Bourbon Life Crew in just a minute. Spirits of French Lick crafts their spirits using only the finest agricultural product that has defined character, following their motto, respect the grain. They lead the way in representing the quality of the Hoosier artisan distilling process while paying tribute to its inseparable past. By implementing best practices from those early times, combined with modern touches, Spirits of French Lick has created a truly unique place in the industry. Spirits of French Lick products are distributed throughout Indiana, Kentucky, and Missouri, and can also be purchased online through Sealbox at sealbox.com. Visit spiritsoffrenchlick.com to learn more information and make sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Located just east of Lake Tahoe and the Sierra Nevada mountains, Frey Ranch Distillery was founded by fifth-generation Nevada farmers. Our grain-to-glass bourbon is made using a 4-grain mash bill, including a non-GMO corn, rye, wheat, and barley, all of which is 100% sustainably grown on the 1,500-acre Frey Ranch. And our commitment to excellence shows with a recent gold medal win at the 2020 Whiskies of the World and USA Spirits competitions. Find out more at www.freyranch.com. All right, everybody, welcome back for the final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark. With me, as always, live in the Bourbon Life Studios is my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Mark, I'm doing great, man.
Awesome. And not just Matt.
That's
is here.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. We brought the credibility with us.
That's right. Here to show y'all, drink it blind. You might like it.
That's right.
Damn. Philip is here. Yeah, man. That's awesome. Bourbon hunting, Kentucky.
That's right. We are having a good time. Just closing out the year, closing out 2021. I don't know when it is you're listening to it. But for us, this will be the show that airs on New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. That's right.
So we are closing out the year kind of the way we started this whole podcast, except
Drunk and stupid.
yeah, so some things that we sound better,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we're still talking just as much noise.
Good point, Matt. Very good point. Yes, sir. No, this is great, man. This is episode 99, which is crazy because, you know, we go back. I've gone back and listened, like I said before, that episode number 1 that we did back in February of 2020. And Jesus, it sucks. It's just awful, dude. It's awful. And I don't know that we're that much better, but we're sure having a good time doing it, man.
With everything, there's growing pains. I mean, I go back and look at some of my first pictures I posted on my
Yeah.
Instagram page. I'm like, Jesus, why did I put that on there? Let's
Yeah.
just delete this.
There you go. Yeah, just gonna cut that out, man. I'm just gonna be done with it. I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's like so. You know, fun story. This week I bought over there, guys. You can see the Don Roberto
1924 about the extra añejo tequila. So the Bourbon Life is, slowly transitioning into the tequila. The tequila.
La tequila vida.
Yes. Oh, wow, Matt. That's awesome. That's great, man. I'm going to have to trademark that, I guess. So, hey, we may be doing some tequila in the future, right? Maybe not.
I'm down for a tequila flight. That'd be good.
Man, I am too. And I tell you, after having that one, it's like, holy crap, that's some good tequila. And it's aged in, some bourbon barrels and stuff. So it's like, yeah, I can drink that. Because tequila and I really aren't good friends, because, well, I don't want to go into the stories, but let's just say it's not pretty, man.
Did you eat the worm?
What's that?
Did you eat the worm?
No, that was the mezcal. No. I thought I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Tequila, the enemy of pants.
Yeah, and like all sanity and yes. Anyway, so all right, Matt. Let me ask you this.
What's up?
We're at the end of the year, man. So everybody does like their top 10, top whatever list. Looking back over the year, do you have like a favorite show or favorite episode that we have done over this last year?
Oh man, a favorite.
I know. I'm putting you on the spot, man.
No,
Sorry.
I appreciate it. I think one that really sticks out to me were the Belfours, and that just could have been
because you're the hockey dude, man.
Growing up in northern
You're
Michigan,
like, yeah.
in Michigan, playing ice hockey. Ed Belfours, like he's a hero. He was a big name of my childhood.
Sure, man.
Getting to talk to him and his son Dane,
Yeah.
trying to reel those two in, they were just a riot the whole time.
Yeah.
But getting to chat with those two, and I think that for me really kicked off this trend that we had this year of guests on the podcast that I would say are, I don't want to call them celebrity brands, but celebrities that are making bourbon.
Sure.
And when I say that, I don't mean I'm a celebrity, let me put my name on this,
Right.
go sell it to
Right.
whomever my fan base is. What I mean is I am actually taking the time to learn about what I'm doing, to research this product, to put out good product, to test, to do research and development, and to put out something I stand behind, not just something my name is
Right.
printed on. And
Yeah.
I think that was a pretty big trend in our year this year. Would you agree?
I would agree, Matt. I mean, it's funny because when you think celebrity brands, you think of, different brands, gins and vodkas and tequilas. And obviously there's a lot of spirits out there that have celebrities that are putting their name. I mean, they're more like endorsers. I mean, it's just an endorsement deal. A lot of people just stepping up and being like, hi, I'm so-and-so. This is my brand. Well, it's not really their brand. But guys like the Belfours, obviously, man, Dane worked for a distillery. And Ed and Dane both went to the distillery and oversaw the process of just distillation. And I was really impressed with what they did. And, Ian and Paul, man, the same thing we did with the Brothers Bond bourbon. Because I have to say it, man, I was not expecting a lot out of that. I really wasn't. And I was like completely and totally surprised by. Did you listen to Philip?
Yeah, I did get to listen. It was very interesting. And the fact that they've put into it, what I think he said, like 8 years of work into coming up with that bottle. And it's good. It's really good.
It's a good bourbon,
I
man.
mean, for an 80 proof, it is really good.
That's the thing that shocked me the most when I tasted it. I was like, damn, this does not taste like 80 proof. But beyond that, this is actually a really good bourbon, The blend was really good, and the involvement that they had in it, the passion they put into it. So, yeah, man, I think when you talk celebrity brands, it's like kind of a surprise. That to me was probably one of the biggest surprises for me the whole year was the celebrity brands, but the fact that a lot of these guys really put a lot of time and effort into making the whiskey what they want it to be. So, yeah, man, I agree with that for sure. But beyond the Belfours. So that was your favorite, you think?
I don't know about favorite, but that's just one that really sticks out to me. We had so many great guests this season.
Yeah, we did, man. We've been very fortunate, man. Going back to the beginning of the year, we've had, a lot of the big names, Harlan from from Buffalo Trace, Connor O'Driscoll from Heaven Hill.
We had Brent Elliott on this season.
Brent Elliott from Four Roses.
Wes Anderson.
Yeah, man. We've had a lot of the big names on there. We've had a lot of distilleries that people probably have never even heard of too, man. And I think sometimes that's kind of my favorite thing is the opportunity to talk to people that people don't know about, you know, people haven't heard about.
Yeah, those are my favorite to listen to because
Is it okay?
the big guys, if you go to any bourbon event or, you know, anything, virtual tastings with the big guys, it's kind of all the same. And it's stuff you've had all the time. All the new craft distilleries that are coming out, and they may not even be new. You just never heard of them. They're new to you. And then you've actually tasted their products and it's really good.
Yeah.
And they're doing it like the old school ways. They don't have the, 20-foot column steel and the, 10,000 gallon tanks. They're doing it on a 250 gallon pot still. And, I really like that because it really speaks to the craft.
Yeah.
And not the industrialized mass production.
I agree. And we kind of talked about that before, what's craft and what's not craft. But, this week, the current episode of the episode that was just out with Prav up in DC, which I didn't know how that episode was going to go. But honestly, Matt, that's probably one of my favorites that we've done this year. Just the chance to sit down and talk to him, even though we weren't in person. But to hear his story and the fact, his story about his dad, and coming over from Nepal and building this business, and Prav just continuing to build those relationships and create this amazing business that he has. There's something about that just really touched me, when I did that show last week. So that may be one of my favorites this year, man. I hate to say that. It's like, it was my last show. It's my favorite, but that really had an impact on me for some reason.
It was a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great episode.
Speaking of great episodes, we're doing that thing that we always do on every episode
We
where
forget
we forget
to talk
about what we're tasting.
Yeah, that's right. What are we drinking here, guys? So, so this was my pick. And I will tell you, I do have the mash bill on this, 63% corn.
You already put it down.
Yeah, I put it down. 27% rye, 10% malted barley. Not going to tell you the age, not going to tell you anything else about it. But that is the mash bill. So I'm going to throw this to you guys and you talk about what you taste, smell, whatever.
I'm going to throw a couple out real quick because Matt's I'm sure he's got a fancy
He's
list.
been writing notes over there for hours. It's like, yes.
So the one thing that really stands out for me is like buttered popcorn.
Okay. Matt's shaking his head.
I get the oak. I get some leather, buttered popcorn, and then I also like a touch of caramel. It's like one of those metal Christmas tin popcorn buckets when you open it up.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yep. Matt, what about you, man? You're shaking your head on the buttered popcorn.
Yeah. I don't know if there's like a buttery, I almost get like a butter roasted nut, like a brittle or buttered nut. I also got...
You know how much we love your roasted nuts, Matt. So.
Hey, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Y'all got some more?
We do. You brought your toasted nuts for us, so we appreciate that.
I think there's a good bit of corn. And also I picked up some nougat. There's like a dry sweetness of nougat, vanilla. And I had a little ruby fruit too, kind of like a juicy, almost tart type fruit nose to it.
Okay. Any guesses? Well, we won't go to guesses yet. We got time, right? So anyway. All right, guys. So something I wanted to talk about was distillery subscriptions, because that's kind of become a new thing here. Maker's Mark started doing that this past year. You could subscribe, and every couple of months you get this new, shipment of a couple of bottles. Jim Beam's doing the same thing, and I actually subscribed to the Jim Beam. I'll admit, I was like, I'm a sucker, maybe. The first shipment was great. And it was like, what was it? Chapters 1 and chapters 4, I think, of the little book, which is like, yeah, I'll take that. No doubt. The last shipment was the Basil Hayden 10-year-old and a Knob Creek 15-year-old, which is not bad, but it's like, okay, maybe not the greatest, right? Maker's Mark, I'm not sure what they've been shipping out. I think they've done their special, like the FAE 01 and 02. But what do you guys think about that? What do you think about subscription services from distilleries?
So for me, I like that distilleries, you're allowed to basically buy directly from the distillery now.
Yeah.
I think that makes it easier to acquire nicer bottles. As far as the subscription, I don't know. It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like cigar subscriptions. Is it going to be worth it every month or 3 months?
Yeah.
And, like with yours from the Jim Beam, the first one was great. Then it's like, well, we're going to cut back on the second one. So that's where I don't know if you're actually getting the bang for your buck or if I just take my chances waiting in line.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
To me, I like being able to buy directly from a distillery. Subscriptions, not necessarily, because you really don't know what you're getting.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think, man?
I can see both sides of it. I think definitely, like you're saying, Philip, like not every shipment's going to be a banger. Yeah. They can't do it. But at the same time, somebody like Knob Creek, like you don't know what they could be pulling out. You don't know what they're sitting on.
I know, man. I was hoping.
Down in
you
there.
have no idea. I was praying and hoping when they said they're going to send something out, Basil Hayden's. I was like, please let it be cask strength Basil Hayden's. I was like, please, but unfortunately it wasn't. But now I've heard that the next round possibly is going to have a special selection of Bookers for the subscription service. So, they have 4 releases each year of Bookers. But this is going to be a special release picked just for the subscription service. So I don't know, it's...
See, if they do more stuff like that, I think if it's a subscription service that's like all barrel picks,
right,
and it's not just something you can wait in line for or something like that,
right,
then absolutely, I think that's a great thing. So maybe if they're going to switch it up to that and start doing exclusives, then it might be worth the paying.
Yeah, because I know like the FAE01 for makers and stuff. I mean, you can wait in line, you can pick those up. Like the FAE02. You can find those. They're hard to get, but yes, you can find those. So, if I'm going to get a subscription, I don't know that that's necessarily what I want to do. I guess, if you don't have the time or the ability, or if you're in a place that doesn't have the distribution, maybe, that may be a good subscription. So I don't know what their distribution is in terms of their subscription services, where they can ship to. So if you're somewhere outside of Kentucky where you're not going to get a chance to get a lot of those bottles, maybe it's a great idea. But
and maybe that's their goal, is just to reach people that they can't.
Yeah, right.
When you said that, what stands out to me was back when the secondary market was a big thing on Facebook. I remember seeing a guy, he bought a Weller Antique and he paid $100 for it. And that was when it was $25.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're crazy. And somebody else said, you're crazy. You can buy that for $25. He said, no. He said, I live in North Dakota. He said, the closest liquor store to me is 150 miles away. He said, for me to drive there, hope that it's there,
right,
and get it and drive back, he said, I've already spent more than $100 in gas, so it's not worth it for me.
Wow.
So I'm like, well.
And now people are selling that for what? How much? 200, 250?
Yeah, 200. Yeah,
crazy.
Crazy.
Like, what?
That is true bourbon hunting KY right there.
That's right.
No doubt, man.
I would like to see a subscription service from a lot of mid to smaller distilleries that are releasing experimental.
Yeah.
Because few spirits, Paul Let Go.
Yeah.
Have a subscription of all that weird, goofy, wacky
Paul,
stuff.
are you listening?
That you've got out there. Like
sure.
Brandon Collins at Taconic.
Taconic, man.
Let me see all the weird stuff.
Alan Bishop.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Alan's like
Bishop.
would be the king of.
That's immediately who I thought of.
Yeah. Alan Bishop would be like at Spirits of French Lick would be like the king of a subscription service with funky releases.
Because a lot of these smaller or mid-sized distilleries have those projects going on.
Sure.
And when they release them, it's usually just gift shop only. And so if you're
Starlight Distillery.
If you're not in Indiana for Starlight, if you're not in Colorado or Denver to go to Family Jones to pick up what Rob Masters is putting out.
Yeah, there you go. Good
you're
point,
gonna
man.
miss out on who knows what. I think, have a little bit of a service and kick some of that, or maybe get like some sort of a consortium or some sort of thing together.
Yeah, because
like
I think
a bunch of mid-sized distilleries together where they have a subscription service.
Right.
A bunch of them get together and every now and then they kick out a weird bottle to this service.
But they could hook up with somebody like Prov or somebody like Flaviar or whoever that has the ability to ship nationwide, because a lot of these distilleries don't have the ability to ship directly nationwide. But if they go through a third party provider like Prov up in DC or Flaviar or whoever else, they can ship through those guys. Yeah, there's a little more cost to it, but let's get it. Man, look at us. We're solving the world's bourbon
Look
problem.
out, 2022.
This is becoming the number one episode.
Yeah.
Dang, dude. Yeah.
We got to edit that part out so we're not giving anyone our idea.
For me,
Too late,
too,
man.
with that idea, it makes a lot of sense for the small distillers because, like in Kentucky, you walk into a liquor barn,
Right.
there's 200 bourbons on the shelf.
Right.
You're gonna blend in. You're not gonna stand out. It doesn't matter, what you could put a little pinwheel or whatever on top of your bottle, and people are still just gonna go to what they know.
I'm going to go and look for a pinwheel on top of it. I'm going to be like, that's the bottle I want right there. It's got a pinwheel.
So I think that is a good way for them to stand out because if they have a subscription that's not, outrageously expensive, I might be like, oh yeah, well I'll try that for at least the first month and see,
Right.
what they've got. And if it's good, I'll keep getting it.
And with Jim Beam, I'm willing to pay a little more because I know those bottles are going to be shipped. I don't have to go out and look for them. I don't have to wait in line, and they're going to get shipped to me. I'm going to pick them up, and they're there. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I like that. I like that fact, and especially the I keep pointing to like, can you guys see the little book? The bottles over there. So it's the chapter 1 and 4. 4. So I could not get those anywhere else. So I'm like, yeah, definitely. Ship those to me. I'm happy to get them.
And in today's retail market, that's kind of how everything's getting done.
Yeah.
It's shipped directly to you. So,
Yep, no doubt. All right, guys. So let's talk about Matt. Matt, you never polish off a glass, man. You just you polished that off, dude.
I had a driver pour.
Oh, you just did a little teeny pour, man. Mm-hmm. All right. So what do you guys think in terms of the?
So the palate on this, I think it drinks older.
Okay.
yeah.
I think
agree
it's
with
got
that.
an older palate to it. A little spice up front on the front of the palate. I was also picking up like a fair amount of peanut. I think that nougat is coming through. It's almost like a little bit of cocoa or something, a little chocolate, like something a little drying, a little flavorful on the back end. I'm not calling it tannic.
Right. Right.
But
I get it.
Something there. I think again, it's got some juicy, fruity, like Fruit Loops type flavor to it. Some sort of like a sweet, fruity candy to it.
Okay. Philip, what about you, man?
I agree with Matt's taste notes. It's got a really nice mouthfeel. It's definitely the highest proof that we've drank tonight.
It is. Yes.
Definitely.
I'll confirm that.
I'm
for sure.
guessing like 125 plus.
See, I wasn't pinning it that high. I wrote down 112 to 118, but I could maybe now see like 116 to 122, 125.
I could be over a little bit, but I would say
You could be right
I'm
on.
thinking definitely like 125.
You guys know me, man. You know my jam, right? You know where I'm at.
This is like water to you, so
yeah. It's like, this is
me and
nothing.
Matt are not the high proof.
I'm
guys.
thinking 8 to 12 years,
Okay.
and I've got 2 guesses.
All right. Philip, are you ready? You want to guess? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that you've got. I'm gonna guess it's A, but I don't know because of the mash bill. It could be.
I know
the
that's
corn
I'm,
could
I'm
be
like
low.
I'm going through it too, like trying to think because he gave us the mash bill, thinking like, is that mash bill right for what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
I wanted to give it to you just so you knew, just so you had it.
I'm probably wrong, but I'm gonna say that this is a 120 proof 9-year Knob Creek store pick.
Okay. Matt?
That's really funny you say that because I actually was guessing this is around like 12-year Knob Creek at around 120, or I was thinking this might be cask strength Angel's Envy.
So what would you guys be willing to pay for this? I'm curious. That's a question we didn't ask on yours. I'm just curious what you guys would, or maybe you did, Philip. I don't remember. You might have.
No, I didn't ask.
Okay. I was like, you might have asked it. I was so shocked by the Hooters that I just completely forgot. I was like, and what do you think?
I'm a snob on the price.
That's fine, man.
It really takes a lot for me to spend a lot, but
I get it.
I would say anything below $100, I would pay
Okay.
I definitely wouldn't go over 100.
Matt, what about you, man?
I'll be even more snobby. I probably wouldn't go over 75
Okay.
on this.
So what if I told you that you could probably pick this up for around $29.99?
I would say show me the store and I'll go grab some. I mean, for that price, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Matt, what do you think?
$29.99.
That's right. Now I'm thinking about what it is.
I know, exactly. You got me thinking too, like what this,
Come on, Matt, think back to the early days of the Bourbon Life.
early days.
This is a throwback. This is a throwback to the early days of the Bourbon Life. So I know it's been, we've strayed away from our heritage.
I mean, right off the top of my head, the only thing I can think of is a $30 bottle. That's like that price would be like benchmark foolproof. And I know that's not that. Or at least I don't think it is. I'll be disappointed in myself if it is.
Matt,
OGD 114.
you got it, dude. That's it. Matt nailed it. Good job, man.
We were at the right distillery.
There you go,
We
man.
just picked the wrong thing.
Old Granddad, 114,
Old Granddad
man.
114.
Yeah, you know what? I was just thinking back to the old days when we first started because we talked about OGD 114 all the damn time.
It's still good.
It is seriously. I mean, is it not just a great bourbon just to go back and touch base back with? It's like you just forget about it. I've got like I don't know how many bottles scattered throughout my basement of this because I thought they were going to discontinue it. So I just started randomly buying bottles, and I was like, I'm going to go back and I'm gonna hit these guys with this one, man, just to see what they think.
Nice. Gosh.
Yeah, good bottle, right?
I've enjoyed this. The blind.
Yeah,
mixing,
man.
It really.
This has been fun. It's like, I don't know anything. And I guess a rye to be a bourbon. Matt, thank you. Philip, I guess a whiskey to be a low proof bourbon. So yeah.
Hey, this was all about the basics. We covered the whole span.
Well, just think if Chad were here, he was going to give us some like weird like island off the coast of who knows where that's making one bottle a century.
It's like, Chad, where'd you get that, man?
Yeah.
What the hell, dude?
Bourbon.
Come on, man.
Oh, my hairdresser gave it to me.
my beard dresser gave it to me, man. We're gonna blow some smoke at Chad right now, right? Says he's on here.
Chad.
Because he's like, I can't wait to listen to the episode on Friday when I'm driving to work. It's like, yeah, now we got you, Chad. Sorry you couldn't be here, man. All right, well, good. I'm glad you guys like that. Obviously none of us guessed whatever we're drinking tonight, right? So, which makes me think like that Bardstown bourbon. They did the what's it called?
The World Whiskey Taster.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
The second pallet in Kentucky was from that.
Chad, that's right.
the
Chad
man.
was last year was number 2, man.
No kidding.
How the hell? I just can't even. I can't even begin to
tip my
fathom.
hat that much more to Chad on this one.
Seriously, man. I mean, because he nailed it, man. He was number 2 in Kentucky last year. It's like, how can you even nail it down to specific years? I don't know what the OGD is. Probably only 6 to 8, maybe.
Yeah,
It's
probably.
young. Yeah, it's younger than Basil Hayden, which was 8 years.
Yeah, right.
So this was like 4 to 6.
Right. So it's like, I mean, the fact that people can nail it down in terms of the age range, the proof, everything. I was like, damn, man. There's no way. I don't think I could ever do that, man. So much respect to Chad, I know you're listening, man. So much respect to you, bro.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we're at the end of round 3. Before we wrap it up, anything you want to add before we close it out?
For me, I'll say since this is kind of a whiskey basics or bourbon basics, anybody out there that's getting into bourbon, don't feel like because you see on Instagram or Facebook, everybody drinking these barrel proofs and things like that, you don't have to start there. I started with Bullet. I think it was the first bourbon that I really started enjoying. Then I went to Benchmark, and I still today go out and buy anything that's like the 100 proof bottled and bond. Most of them are under $20-$25. Those are good bourbons. They're good introductory bourbons because I feel like if you go straight to the hard stuff, the high proof stuff, you're going to burn your palate up and you're not going to really enjoy everything that's available.
Yeah, good point, man. Matt, what about you, man?
I got to echo exactly what Phil said there. Don't be intimidated also by big labels, big stickers, big prices.
Yep.
A lot of the best stuff out there is on the bottom shelf for a reasonable price. And we just finished
We just proved that tonight, right?
Yeah, and two of our rounds came in under $30.
Yep.
So find what you like, and then I encourage people to explore down that alley, but don't be afraid to branch off. There's a lot of really good stuff out there, and anytime, just ask questions about this. We're of course always happy to help, but this is like one big family of an industry. Everybody wants you to enjoy it and wants you to have a good time drinking your bourbon or whiskey or rye or whatever. So just remember that. And gosh, we have made it through season 2. I can't believe it.
Crazy, man.
As we close out 2021, what a crazy year it's been. But thank you all so much for being part of it with us. We wouldn't be much of a podcast without our listeners and with the support from our sponsors and just from all of you. So thank you so much for keeping us alive and for living the bourbon life with us.
Yep. And I want to thank you all for bringing me, into this. And it's been a blast. It's been a hell of a year.
Yeah, man. We've enjoyed it, man.
We have to have some credibility.
Hey, you all have helped me branch into a whole nother career just by, being around you guys and part of this. So it's greatly appreciated.
No, that's awesome, dude. We're happy to do that, man. And we are the Bourbon Life presented by Bespoken Spirits, and we just we appreciate all of our sponsors. We appreciate all of our listeners. We're just happy that we get the opportunity each week to come and share our passion with you guys. And we appreciate you all listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Like Matt said, thebourbonlife@gmail.com, or just message us on Facebook or Instagram. We'd be happy to respond to you guys and answer any questions that you might have, because without you guys, I mean, like Matt said, again, we're not going to be a podcast. So we appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate all your support. Appreciate all of our sponsors. And with that said, I should say Happy New Year, because this is our New Year's Eve edition, right? So Happy New Year's to everybody out there listening. And we just appreciate all of you all. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the Bourbon Life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the Bourbon Life.
Whether it's rye, sour mash Tennessee whiskey, or bourbon, Davidson Reserve has something delicious to offer any whiskey lover's palate. Pick up a bottle of one of our award-winning Davidson Reserve whiskeys from your local retailer today. Visit www.davidsonreserve.com for more information. And cheers to drinking local.